Greetings! In this video I am going to provide a tutorial for English dance found on page 78 of the Christopher Parkening Classical Guitar Method, Volume 1. Now this piece starts with a pickup measure, which is an incomplete measure, which is numbered 0. So when I refer to measure 1, 1 is the first complete measure. The following systems have a little measure number under the treble clef. You'll see an 8 under the second system treble clef, and that helps you know that first complete measure on that system as well is measure 8. So, going from measure 1 to 2, this fingering can trip up a lot of beginning guitarists. I encourage you to practice keeping your knuckles in line with the neck of the guitar. It's tempting to turn your hand open like this, but then these fingers have to come in at a weird angle and move extra far. But if you bring this side of your hand closer to the neck of the guitar, these two fingers can hover about 1/4 of an inch away from the strings, and then they barely have to move. So I'd encourage you to practice that if you're having any trouble with it. We want to be able to depend on it 100% and know that we're always going to hit it. For this first system, I like to use rest strokes on that upper melody. They're going to mute our middle texture note, but that's totally fine, because our melody is what needs to stand out. This G up here in the 4th measure, I like to do a free stroke and just let it ring out like it's a sort of embellishment. So my melody would be something like this. And that makes more sense to me than having that jump. You can do that as a melody note, but I think it sounds nicer to let it just kind of ring out and hang there for a moment. I even hang on to it through some of measure 5. But if you are playing your melody with rest strokes, and then you play that note with a free stroke, you get a different tone, and it doesn't seem to pull away from your melody. So that's a good strategy for distinguishing between melodic notes versus something that's just a little bit of an embellishment. I would encourage you to not slow down at the end of sections, because this is a dance, and it needs to be rhythmic and have a very strong, secure beat. The next section we have these interesting tenths. This fingering right here going from A in the bass and C in the melody to B and D. I would encourage you to try splaying out these fingers so they're going to open up width-wide around your ring finger. If you do that, it's going to give you more security and help you to keep that ring finger from bumping strings. If you feel your ring finger bumping strings, then you need to push these apart a little bit more and lift up on that ring finger, and you'll actually develop a really secure, consistent grab on those two notes. So if you're having trouble hitting that consistently or you're bumping other notes, practice opening up rather than trying to come in at this bad angle. We want to stay aligned and then just widen our hand a little bit. It makes a huge difference. And then we have these. And you could play that a number of ways. You could let the top notes ring, or you can play them short. I like to do it short. I think it just has a little bit more of that classical, energetic pop to it. But either is perfectly viable. It's notated to just be short notes, but it's open to interpretation. The third system, I would encourage you to switch right away into rest strokes. I also like to move to a little bit of a brighter area of the string, so further from the sound hole. And I think it sounds especially nice if we can really pop those. So we have a melody, and then kind of a chord movement. It just kind of contrasts the two textures that we have going on. Here it's a very simple melodic line, and here we have chords. So to create a little differentiation can just create musical interest. The final section we have this. And I would encourage you Same thing, we want to try to open up our hands sideways when we have these pointer finger to pinky or middle finger to pinky in order to keep that ring finger from bumping other strings. So that first measure, measure 24 of the fourth system, measure 24, I'm going to push my ring finger to the left, my middle finger to the left a little bit and my pinky to the right and open them up. And then right here, I'm going to go ahead and shift my pinky down to the next string as soon as I play that F. So align the pinky, because that pinky is just a little bit less reliable and we need to train it to go where it needs to go a little early sometimes. And this is a great place to practice that. So A, C sharp, G, C sharp, shift the pinky. And then as I'm playing this, I have all this time to reach down with my ring finger and get ready to grab that G in the bass. Watch what my hand does starting at the beginning of the system. It's there long before it's needed. And then back to these guys. I really encourage you to use rest strokes for these lines. It's just great to get your hand used to shifting up and down for rest strokes. And it helps your melodies to really pop. Make sure you end on a rest stroke. So index finger is going to rest stroke onto string 4. My thumb is just going to pick. We can do rest strokes with both fingers, but it can really be awkward. And in this case, we really want that melody note to stand out more than the bass note. And bass notes can really dominate melody notes if we're not careful. So I encourage you, bring your hand up toward the ceiling, and we're just going to do a rest stroke with the index and a little free stroke with the thumb. Once that's easy for you to do, add a couple beats. Also, try to mute that B if you can. You could use your left hand and just tilt in order to cut off that B from this guy right here. Really easy way to do that without having to mix in your right hand fingerings, but you could also do a right hand fingering to mute that guy. Those are my recommendations for playing this piece. I encourage you to take each system and be able to play it 10 times in a row without making a mistake. So find a speed where you can be very, very consistent. Once you find that speed, gradually build up speed. If you do that, your hands will become much more dependable, reliable, consistent. So, good luck playing that. I hope this was helpful, and thank you very much for watching.